Hi, Starry Friends, Counselor Johnson here. I am here to talk to you today about something that is going to be very important as we finish out the last few weeks of school. We're talking about responsibility and getting your work done. Your teachers want you to finish your work because it helps you learn how to be responsible in the future. Someday, when you have a job, you'll have to complete work and tasks. If at that job you do not do your work and tasks, you will have consequences. Consequences are something that happens after you do something or make a choice. Consequences can be good or bad. Many times we think of consequences as a bad thing, like when we talk back to our parents, or we might have to go to our room or do extra chores, or we get our electronics taken away. But sometimes consequences can be good. Like if you're well behaved in a restaurant, maybe your parents will take you out for ice cream as a reward. That's a consequence. Or like at Starry, when all classes earn their red tickets, the consequence is that the whole school gets a fun reward. Another example of consequences would be if you're feeling hungry and you eat an apple, the consequence is that you don't feel hungry anymore, you feel happier, and you have more energy. But if, when you're hungry, you don't eat anything, there's also a consequence. What consequence would that be? Think about it for a second. You would be hungry, your tummy would hurt, or you would get tired. One thing we're going to talk about is when you start to have a feeling that you don't want to do your schoolwork. I know sometimes you don't feel like doing your schoolwork. You'd rather be playing outside or playing video games, but sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. It's part of life. And like I said earlier, it's a skill that you're going to have to learn for when you're older. So let's talk about the consequences of not doing your work. So, here is you. You are smart. You are funny. And you are kind. You also, most of the time, follow the Marian way. Sometimes, though, because of something at home, or you're stressed or you're overwhelmed, you might start to feel upset. Then you might start to think that you don't want to do your schoolwork. So when you're feeling upset about having to do your schoolwork, we're going to talk about 3 different choices or ways you could go and what the consequences of each of those ways are. But what I want you to think about is, which one of these ways is the Marian way? And which way will make me feel happy again? But before we get started, there's one super important thing to remember. All of these options end with having to do your work. You do not get to skip doing your work. So let's talk about number 1. One choice or way you could choose is to, if you don't want to do your work, say no. You don't want to do your work, so you tell your teacher that you don't want to do it and you refuse to do it. This is a choice that some students make. But let's remember what we talked about for consequences. What is the consequence of telling your teacher no? You're not going to do this choice. I want you to pause the video and talk to a partner about what you think the consequence might be if you just tell your teacher no and refuse to do the work. Go ahead and pause. I hope you had a good discussion. Let's talk about consequences. If you say no and refuse to do the work, the consequence could be that you have to stay in from recess and do reteach instead. So that would mean no recess, or you would work during recess. Another consequence is that if you choose this way, you would still feel upset because you missed recess and you still have work to do. Because remember, even if you choose this way, in the end, you still have to do the work. It might mean that you have to do it later, during recess, at home, or the next day, but you still have to do it. You do not get out of it. If I tried to get out of my work, Miss Meyer would fire me. Now, number 2. Another choice or way some kids might take is to throw a fit, crying or yelling that you don't want to do your work. Another way that somebody might choose is to run away, run out of the classroom or run away. Please pause the video and talk to your partner again about, or with your class, about what the consequences might be if you make one of these choices. Go ahead and pause. So here are just a couple of consequences you might have if you make this choice. You will most likely have to go to the office. If you're throwing a fit or running around the building, that tells us that your body is not calm. So you may need to go to the office to calm down instead of being with your friends, and that's no fun. If you choose this way, you might also have your parents called to talk about what happened, which might mean more consequences at home. And also, you could easily get hurt since you are not being safe, which is one of the Marion Way expectations. Finally, you would also feel sad and upset because you still don't have your work done. You may have to go to the office, and you might have those more consequences at home. And remember, even if you choose this way, in the end, you still have to do your schoolwork. You will not get out of the work. So this option really doesn't help you in the end, because now you are sad, you have consequences, and you still have to do the work. And then there is way number 3. In this choice, you are still upset. You do not want to do your work, but instead, you choose to go to the think spot. You go and use the breathing techniques that we learned in guidance. Pause the video again here to discuss what consequences you would have if you choose this way. Go to the think spot. Remember, consequences can be good or bad. Pause the video now. Now let's talk about the consequences of this choice. If you go to the think spot and use it correctly, you will have a calm body. When our bodies are calm, we are able to make better choices. You may also get dojo points for making a responsible and safe choice. It is always the teacher's decision, though, about when and who to give dojo points to. But when you follow the Marion Way and make good choices, you are more likely to get dojo points. Also, once you are calm and make a better choice, and maybe get dojo points, and your work is done, you will get to go to recess and be with your friends. And the biggest, most important consequence from making this choice is that you feel happy again. Now you have a decision to make. Let's look at the choices again. Or all the choices or all the different ways we can take. We can take way number 1. You choose to tell your teacher no, you do not want to do your work. Or you take way number 2 and throw a fit or run away. Or you can choose way number 3 and choose to go to the think spot to calm down. Each way has its own consequences. If you choose way number 1, as a review, your consequences might be that you don't get to go to recess or you have to do reteach, and you'll feel sad. If you choose way number 2, your consequences might mean that you go to the office, your parents get called, or you could get hurt and you still feel sad. Or finally, if you pick way number 3, by going to the think spot, your consequences could be that you have a calm body, you'll get your stuff done, you might get dojo points, and you will get to go to recess and be with your friends. And most importantly, you'll feel happy. And remember, no matter what you choose, the end is always the same. You have to do your work. So, pause the video right here. Look at each way you can choose. Think about the consequences and feelings of each way, and discuss what choice you would make and why. Pause the video now. So, each time you are tired, sad, bored, mad, angry, grumpy, and you just do not feel like doing your work, remember to decide which way is the Marion way. So now, with the help of your teacher, I'd like you to fill out the yellow sheet that your teacher gives you. Tell me which number, 1, 2, or 3, you would like to choose when you start to feel like you do not want to work. Then draw me a picture of that choice in the box below. Remember, always follow the Marion way, be safe, be kind, and make good choices.